Look at yourself right now. Feel the stillness in your body, the faint hesitation in your thoughts. You might be sitting there, scrolling idly on your phone, or staring blankly at a half-finished task on your desk. Or maybe you're lying awake at night, haunted by the pressure of 1,000 little expectations you barely remember setting for yourself. Does this feeling whisper to you? A soft utterance, almost shameful. Maybe you're just lazy. If this thought has crept into your mind, know this: there is a heavier truth beneath it, one that your culture rarely asks you to examine. You are not lazy. You are a victim of a burnout society. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a world moving so fast, it never pauses to catch its breath. A world that measures you not by your dreams, but by the amount of energy you expend. A world that congratulates hustle, but dismisses rest. You live inside this world, or maybe more accurately, you are worn down by it. And that weariness, that sense of tiredness that no weekend or vacation can erase, is not your failure. It is the consequence of something much larger than you. There is a subtle, nearly invisible weight pressing down, a weight composed of relentless demands, invisible deadlines, endless to-do lists, and the omnipresent digital buzz. Every notification, every expectation, every comparison pulls you further from your center, from your sense of peace. The supply of your will to keep going is not infinite. It dwindles as life draws on. You don't stop because you are lazy, but because you've been pushed to the brink and beyond. Think of the image of a candle burning at both ends. You may have been taught that this burning is noble, that it proves dedication and passion, a sign you're truly striving. But the truth, a candle burnt at both ends doesn't last long, and what remains afterward is scarcely light enough to show the path forward. Those flames you keep stoking are not trophies. They are warnings. It's easy, isn't it, to blame yourself? To wonder why you can't keep up with an ever-growing mountain of expectations. Why your enthusiasm fades into apathy. Why mornings feel like a battle and evenings like a surrender. In this moment of quiet self-doubt, pause, reflect. These feelings are not the judgment of personal failure. They are signals from your soul, asking for a reprieve, for recognition, for a deeper understanding. The burnout society wants you to believe that stopping means falling behind, that rest is a luxury, not a necessity. But what if the real failure lies not in your pauses, but in the refusal to acknowledge your limits? What if the suffering you feel is the echo of a broken promise, a promise that working harder alone will bring happiness, meaning, or success? Consider the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche's words. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. What is your why? In a world that measures your worth by output, that why can get lost beneath layers of exhaustion and distraction. But it exists, waiting quietly, fragilely, beneath the weight. And here you are now caught in a paradox. You feel stuck, like a wheel spinning in mud, yet you're searching for something more. You sense an inner conflict between what you're told you should be and what your spirit longs to become. Behind the fatigue, behind the blurred days, there is still a flicker of life. A part of you that knows this relentless pace cannot be the whole story. Because to be human, truly human, is to be more than a productivity machine. It is to live with depth and joy, to connect, to create, to find stillness amid chaos. So this first moment that you sit with me, know that your experience is real and valid. You are not lazy. You are tired because you have carried an impossible burden, one imposed by an ecosystem of work, culture, and expectation designed not for your well-being, but for endless output. Before you move forward through the swirling complexity of this truth, linger here in the quiet space of acknowledgement. Feel the reality of your exhaustion, not as shame or failure, but as clarity. You are on the edge of understanding something profound about yourself and the society that shapes you. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a journey from confusion and fatigue toward awakening and freedom. And it starts with one simple, radical act: seeing yourself clearly, without blame, without judgment, just with the compassionate eyes of one who knows the weight you carry. Now breathe. Let that truth settle into your bones. You're not lazy. You are a soul trying to survive in a society that hasn't yet learned to respect its own fragility. What comes next is the unraveling of the causes and the search for what lies beyond burnout. But for now, hold this moment close. Hold this understanding close. Because every journey starts with seeing clearly where you stand and feeling deeply what's true. When you're ready, let me know, and we will step together into the next chapter, exploring how the structures of our modern world create this burnout and why the illusions of endless hustle obscure the real path to freedom. You wake up in the morning, and before your feet touch the floor, your mind races ahead: emails, deadlines, messages, the unending procession of things to do. The world outside your window doesn't pause. Everything hums, surges, demands more. Have you ever wondered where this pressure comes from? Why life feels less like a journey and more like an endless sprint? This is not just your experience. You exist within vast, intricate systems. A society that prizes productivity above all, that worships at the altar of busyness. Sociologist Max Weber described the iron cage of modernity, an invisible structure of rationalization and efficiency, inside which our humanity gets quietly squeezed. Today, that cage has become subtler, more internalized. The chains are not clamped by others, but forged and fastened by yourself. Each time you whisper, "I should be doing more." You live in the age of self-optimization. You monitor your steps, your calories, your hours of sleep. You measure your life in data, convinced that with enough metrics, you can perfect yourself. Each app and platform draws you deeper into performance, promising you'll finally be enough when you reach the next milestone. But the goalposts always shift. You chase a version of yourself that's always just out of reach. Think for a moment of the late philosopher Byung-Chul Han. He wrote, "Fatigue and exhaustion are defining afflictions of the present age illnesses of a society oriented toward achievement." You aren't merely avoiding laziness. You're tangled in a web of endless achievement. The more you do, the more you are expected to do. You become your own taskmaster, driving yourself long after your energy is spent. Consider this image. You are running on a treadmill, but the speed increases every time you catch your breath. Each step is for approval from bosses, peers, even your past self. Somewhere, rest stops are promised, but when you approach, they vanish. The treadmill doesn't care if you're limping. It only cares that you keep moving. You see the illusion daily in motivational sayings like, "Sleep when you're dead," or "Hustle harder." In the parade of perfect lives on social media, exotic vacations, glowing skin, endless success. You compare your inner mess to their external gloss, and each scroll deepens the wound. But what you can't see, behind every filtered photo, is the fatigue, the same weary striving hidden behind a smile. You may recall Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and survivor of concentration camps. He taught that our deepest task is not to chase happiness, but to find meaning. Yet in burnout society, you are taught to pursue happiness as a product, measured in likes, salaries, or wins. Meaning dissolves into metrics. The soul's hunger is replaced by the stomach's emptiness, hoping maybe one more achievement will satisfy it. Pause and look around. Can you sense the loneliness hidden inside this race? We are all connected digitally, yet more isolated in our striving than ever before. Each person is an island, performing busyness for an invisible audience, craving connection that achievement alone can't offer. And so, you may begin to notice the cracks. That your drive is tinged with fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being worthless if you stop. Fear that rest will leave you erased from memory. These are not your true instincts. They are learned. You have inherited this fear from a world obsessed with doing over being. But what if you glimpse the truth? That the very structures you trust to give you meaning, jobs, brands, self-improvement challenges, might instead be siphoning your energy, blurring your purpose? That burnout is not evidence of your weakness, but a natural response to unnatural demands. Simone Weil once wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." Your attention is endlessly divided by this culture, making it almost impossible to give it generously to yourself or others. The world thrives on your fragmentation, but you suffer for it. As you recognize these patterns, you begin to see it. The crisis is not inside you. It is all around you, shaping your thoughts, engineering your choices, diverting your desires. The society of burnout is not a distant machine. It is the ever-present air you breathe. Your struggle is not private or shameful. It is a mirror reflecting the pressures of your time. To see the machinery, to name the treadmill and the iron cage, is the first act of liberation. Only what is seen can be changed. You stand now at a turning point. Will you remain a cog, or will you begin to imagine another way? Next comes the search for truth behind these illusions, and the slow unlearning of what keeps you from your deepest peace. But for now, simply notice. You are not alone, and you are not broken. You are a soul awakening, at last, to the deeper currents beneath a society that never truly rests. When you're ready, let's move on and delve into the illusions and truths that define your inner landscape. Let's go deeper together, like peeling back layers of wallpaper in a room you've lived in for years, only to realize the original walls are foreign to you. What you thought was yours turns out to be decoration, chosen by someone else decades before. The laziness you feared is not your nature. It's a mask, an illusion stitched tightly to your identity by the powers of the burnout society. You've been told all your life that relentless self-improvement is the path to fulfillment. That if you work hard enough, look bright and positive, you'll earn belonging, love, perhaps even happiness. The illusion? That worth is something you must continually prove, not something given with your first breath. Think of Sisyphus, the figure from Greek mythology, condemned to push his rock up the hill for eternity, only to have it roll back down. It's easy to pity Sisyphus until you notice how much your own life can resemble his. Each morning you shoulder the rock anew, inboxes full, calendars booked, unmet goals stacked like stones on your back. Why does no amount of effort ever feel enough? Because the system doesn't want you to finish your exhaustion, sustains its cycle. And yet, there are moments of painful clarity, aren't there? Glimpses when you realize the reward for constant motion is not satisfaction, but more motion. The philosopher Jean Baudrillard observed, "We live in a world where there is more and more information and less meaning." This flood of images, posts, and dopamine hits feels substantial, but it evaporates into emptiness the moment you pause. The meaning you crave, real meaning, can't be found in comparison or acclaim. Immanuel Kant told us, "Dare to know. Have the courage to use your own understanding." The courage Kant speaks of isn't just intellectual, it's existential. It's the bravery to look beneath the surface, to recognize the narratives shaping your exhaustion. This means questioning inherited values. Is busyness always virtuous? Is achievement always joy? Imagine for a moment a classroom, but there are no windows. The only light is fluorescent and flickers. The teacher at the front repeats instructions. Work harder, faster, achieve more. All the while, the doors are locked and the lesson never ends. It's only when you realize there's a world outside sun, quiet, slow, all the things you've been told to ignore, that liberation becomes possible. Personal stories make this even clearer. Recall a time you met someone who seemed, on the surface, to have it all: career, reputation, followers, charm. Maybe you envied them. But stay with them long enough, and you often hear the confessions. how anxious they are, how fragile their success feels, how lonely it is at the top of an endless climb. The burnout society is democratic. It spares no one. Even the winners feel it gnawing at the edges of their victories. So, what is the truth beneath these illusions? The truth is both softer and fiercer than the machinery wants you to believe. It is this: you are enough, not because of what you achieve, but because you exist. You are not a product or a project. You are a being fallible, luminous, and worthy. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But in the burnout society, becoming your true self is subversive. It means saying no to work that drains your spirit, to relationships that exploit your kindness, to paths that promise everything and deliver only more running. There is real fear in stepping off the treadmill, even for a second. The fear of falling behind, of being invisible, of disappointing others. But there is also freedom, the spine-tingling possibility that life can be lived for more than output, applause, or acquisition. The illusions only hold power as long as you believe them. When you see them for what they are, masks, not mirrors, the journey of transformation can begin. This is not easy work, and it does not happen overnight. It is a daily act of remembering who you are beneath the armor and noise, of seeking truths that nourish, not exhaust. As you sit with these revelations, let yourself grieve the years lost to illusions. Then, let yourself imagine, if only for a breath, what it would feel like to lift the rock from your shoulders, to open the window and let sunlight in. This is the threshold between fear and freedom, between loneliness and strength. To cross it, you need only one thing: the courage to see. When you are ready, we will journey together into what it means to reclaim your strength, not in opposition to your exhaustion, but as a new way of being powerful and whole. You come to a crossroads, one where the old maps no longer help. The old map told you, work harder and you'll arrive. But now you see, the journey is inward. You have stripped away illusions, stood in the raw space between fear and freedom. Here, at Crisis, the real journey begins not of soaring, but of slow, steady, silent change. Perhaps you feel the loneliness most now. You look around and wonder, is it just me? The world seems to swirl effortlessly onward, while you falter, weary from the burden. It is in this moment that philosopher Søren Kierkegaard's insight rings true. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. Burnout warps your relationship with time. The future becomes a threat, a list of looming, impossible tasks. The past is a record of missed opportunities. The present, a haze. But paradoxically, it's in this loneliness that your hidden strength is born. Because you are not simply an isolated user in a system. You are the subject of your own existence. When Nietzsche proclaimed, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star," he was speaking to you here, now, on the edge of getting up or finally breaking through. Crisis is not a grave, but a horizon. What if your exhaustion is not only the end of capacity, but the beginning of awakening? You recognize that something isn't working, and that knowledge is the spark of change. The culture of burnout has no answer for this, because true transformation defies its logic. Burnout society says, fix yourself, then return to the wheel. But you sense an alternative, healing and creating new values, not in spite of your vulnerability, but because of it. Imagine a room, once cluttered with broken tools and half-finished projects. You begin slowly, quietly to clear space. At first, it feels like loss, but then you notice you can breathe. Sunlight dapples the empty floor. In emptiness, possibility returns. Silence is not a void, but an invitation. You might think of Simone de Beauvoir, who insisted that freedom is rooted in the creation of new meaning. Change your life today. Don't gamble on the future. Act now without delay. What if you granted yourself permission not to become perfect, but to grow bit by bit toward a self that is neither produced on demand nor consumed by expectation? What if your new strength was not endurance, but discernment, the art of saying yes, and perhaps more importantly, the art of saying no? Here, stories become crucial. Maybe you remember that friend who, after years of silent suffering, finally said enough and left a job, ended a toxic relationship, set a necessary boundary. You saw them flounder, uncertain at first, but then watched as their joy slowly returned. It wasn't hustle that healed them, but honesty. It wasn't productivity, but presence. This is not to say the transformation is swift or smooth. Some days, you will want to return to the comforting rhythms of burnout because they are familiar, even addictive. Some days the loneliness will sting because change can feel like exile. On those days, remember Viktor Frankl's words: when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to need. In naming your needs with kindness, not judgment, you reclaim your power. Your journey toward a new life unfolds quietly. You find yourself seeking different company people who honor sincerity over status, curiosity over competition. You notice beauty in the mundane, the warmth of a sunbeam through a window, the quiet courage in an honest conversation, the relief of a slow breath taken just for you. You cultivate space for silence, for reflection, for being. It is here, in this radical shift from crisis to transformation, that the deepest hope lies. Your suffering is not wasted. It is fertilizer for a new kind of life, a life rooted in enoughness, connection, and creative freedom. You are not alone in this transition, even when solitude feels most sharp. Others are waking up, one by one, yearning to trade exhaustion for meaning, competition for community, the tyranny of should for the dignity of is. As you recognize your journey in theirs, and theirs in you, you begin to see the path of healing is personal, but the transformation is collective. When you are ready, we will take the final step toward integrating this new self and acting with courage in a world still learning to see beyond the burnout. Now you stand at the threshold of a new existence, where the ghosts of burnout and the illusions of endless striving no longer hold you captive. You have stumbled, stopped, and listened deeply. Here begins the work of integrating your insights and moving, step by step, into a life animated by values that truly nourish you. You may ask yourself, how do you embody this change, day after day? How do you guard your soul against slipping back into the old machinery, the drumbeat of busyness that surrounds you still? Begin with small acts of rebellion. In a world obsessed with speed, you choose slowness. When everyone shouts, you listen. Where the norm is comparison, you choose compassion for others, but first and most fiercely for yourself. Philosopher Alain de Botton remarks, there is no such thing as work-life balance. Everything worth fighting for unbalances your life. You discover that, rather than seeking a perfect equilibrium according to external rules, your journey is about crafting a dynamic, living balance, one responsive to the unique rhythms of your own heart. Practice gratitude, not as a fleeting Instagram challenge, but as the radical act of seeing value in moments that cannot be measured. The softness of morning light, the laughter that bubbles up unexpected, the grace in forgiving yourself for not being everything to everyone. This is not passivity, but courageous presence as steady return to what is real. You will still feel the currents of burnout society, always tugging at your sleeve. The emails will not stop. The competition will still be broadcast from every screen. But when anxiety presses in, recall Thich Nhat Hanh's wisdom. Smile, breathe, and go slowly. Over time, your nervous system learns new rhythms: less panic, more peace. Less reaction, more response. It is here that the work of creating new values unfolds. Ask yourself, what truly matters to you beneath the layers of learned expectation and habit? Is it creativity? Authenticity? Connection? Rest? You chart a new course by honoring these values daily, even in imperceptible ways. The way you greet a friend, the way you eat your food, the way you allow yourself a moment of quiet before sleep. Your transformation is real, but it is also fragile. You must protect it from cynicism and the urge to prove its worth according to old standards. Instead, become a steward of your own well-being and the well-being of those around you. The philosopher Hannah Arendt warned that the greatest threat to freedom is not oppression, but indifference. So, let your transformation spill beyond your edges. When you see someone struggling, speak gentleness to their burden. Create spaces, digital, physical, emotional, where people can rest, reflect, and find their own courage. This journey, in its honesty and its humility, is an invitation. It's a call to dialogue with the world, to insist that a life with meaning cannot be wrung out of endless accomplishments, that there is dignity in rest, in questions asked without answers, in love given and received imperfectly. Do not wait for permission. The old world will always sell you reasons to wait, just one more promotion, just a little more discipline, just until you feel less tired. Instead, begin now. Embrace the uncertainty that comes with building new habits and holding new boundaries. And when you falter, because you will, remember psychologist Carl Rogers' gentle assurance. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So the story does not end here. You are no longer running from laziness, but running toward depth. You are not a problem to be fixed. You are a person to be cherished by yourself, by others, by the world in which you live and breathe. And as you walk forward, ask yourself and the world a final, open question. What might change, not just for me, but for us all, if we dare to live as if we are already enough? Pause now. Breathe into the vastness of that question. Carry it with you into your next day, your next conversation, your next act of courage or compassion. Share this journey quietly or boldly and watch as step by small step, a new story takes root in your life. The story of a society and a self healed and free.